All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our pre-departure orientation. We are super excited that you are almost to the point of going on your program, and we know that you are very, very busy. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I'm Kate Scott. I'm the Director of Programs Abroad here at University of Tennessee, and I am joined by my team and a few of our campus partners as well today to give you your pre-departure orientation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to go over is kind of the schedule or the agenda for today. So first, we're going to go through some intro and some setting expectations. That'll take probably about 10 minutes. After that, we're going to go through some safety and insurance information. These things are important if you get hurt abroad or you need to go to a medical clinic abroad or things like that. The next thing is going to be practical application and cultural exploration. So that's going to take about 40 minutes. And then the last thing then is the wrap up and re-entry. At the end, we're going to leave some time for some bonus material. So if you are participating on a transfer credit program or a non-faculty directed program, if you want to know more about some in-depth information about finances, or you want to explore this cultural exploration component a little bit more, stick around at the end. This is a video from our Vice Provost and the Provost.
Greetings, Vols Abroad. I'm John Zomchik, Provost and Senior Vice Chancellor.
And I'm Gretchen Neisler, Vice Provost for International Affairs.
We want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your decision to elevate your volunteer experience through study abroad. Your dedication to global education and cultural exchange truly exemplifies the volunteer spirit. By stepping beyond your comfort zone, you will gain a diverse perspective and contribute to our increasingly interconnected world. Your decision to study abroad reflects a commitment to personal growth and academic excellence. You will learn more about yourself and the world around you, grow in your knowledge, skills, and sense of purpose, and discover the beauty of new places, cultures, and people.
In a world of increasing global connectedness, there's a need for strong communication and interpersonal skills, adaptability, and leadership skills. By going abroad, you are moving beyond the classroom to develop the education competencies and real-world experiences that employers seek.
And you will also have a chance to make a difference both abroad and back home. You will have a chance to share what it means to be a volunteer and further develop your own commitment to service and leadership. The volunteer spirit can profoundly impact the world, and the torch you carry will indeed light the way for others along your journey.
And remember, you're not alone. The Programs Abroad office within the Center for Global Engagement is here to support you at every stage of your Vols Abroad experience, allowing you to confidently explore opportunities outside of your comfort zone.
So Vols Abroad, we wish you safe travels and
Go
Vols!
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about setting expectations, and I'm going to invite my colleague Brad to come in and talk about that.
Hey, thanks guys for joining us. We are excited about sending you guys abroad. You guys have so many different experiences coming up, and the cool thing about having so many students in the room at one time is you guys are going to be literally going all over the world. So first of all, congratulations. Second of all, I am so excited about sending you out as representatives of University of Tennessee. We're sending volunteers all over the globe. And so remember that while you are abroad, you are a representative and a ambassador for the university. We're so excited about you guys having the experiences you're going to have. We also want you to do it safely. We want you to do it with a sense of not only excitement, but also responsibility. So remember, while you're abroad, just maintain the safety of yourself and your peers and your groups when you guys are out, when you're about doing your experiences. Everybody is excited about being there. We want it to be a great experience for everybody. There are ramifications if you choose not to abide by the structure of your program, the rules of the institutions that you are attending. And we want you to know that those expectations and the consequences of your decisions can range from anything from putting someone else at risk to putting yourself at risk, to incurring sanctions here at home at UTK. And oftentimes, if things go too far, we don't want you to get into a situation where you'd have to be sent home early from the program or experience any kind of legal repercussions in the country that you're in. So just keep those things in mind. The UTK Student Code of Conduct does apply to you. And so you've signed that here. You've also signed that in the Vols Abroad portal. So remember that code of conduct does apply to you. The other thing that we want to talk about is you guys are going into whole new countries. You're going into new settings. You're going all over the world. You're doing amazing experiences. Remember, some of the cultural differences that you're going to encounter are going to be real. So some of you are going to be doing homestays and possibly staying with families. If you are on a homestay or staying with families, you're going to encounter not only cultural, but some family patterns that maybe are going to be unique or completely new for you. I think what we want you to do is be prepared to be respectful of the culture you're in, be prepared to be respectful of the families that you're in. A common scenario we hear about is the air conditioning is completely different in my homestay than I typically am used to. Many cultures around the world do not have access to the same types of air conditioning that we do here in the States. And so that might be something you need to speak with your host family about, or determine whether it's a true health and safety risk. If it's a little bit different than what you're used to, then we would encourage you to be open, be flexible, be willing to kind of roll with the dynamics of the country and the family that you're with. We also understand that it's a moving target right now with American sentiment abroad. So we want you to be careful as you're going abroad, because American sentiment is changing as we are facing different political climates around the world. So be cautious about that. And then just remember that as you're communicating, we've got some tips on how you might be able to use some of the local languages to learn some tips and phrases so that you'll be more prepared if you encounter non-English speakers. And just remember that as you're communicating, to be respectful, listen. There's a lot that you can learn from listening to those around you. And with those tips in mind, I think I'm going to have Tessa now explain a little bit about how academics work.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So for academics, hopefully at this point you all know what type of program that you're doing, but the type of program can affect obviously what you're doing on site. So a lot of you are doing those UTK credit programs, the faculty directed programs or the UTK academic internships. And then some of you are doing transfer credit programs. So those are exchange programs, direct programs, affiliates. Think about Lorenzo de' Medici, CIEE, ISA. That's you guys. So the way that you enroll in courses will be a little bit different, and the way that those courses will show up on your academic history after you've finished your program will also be a little bit different. So for our UTK credit students, you are enrolling in that course in your My UTK account, just like you would for any other term at UT. That also means that your GPA is affected, just like any other term at UT. So definitely keep that in mind. And for our transfer credit students, your cumulative GPA will not be affected by the courses that you take, but your HOPE GPA, if you receive that HOPE scholarship, will be affected. Additionally, you will have that grade show up on your official transcript. So if you're thinking about applying to grad school or you have an external scholarship, that will also show up. So definitely studying abroad is still an academic engagement. So make sure that you are doing your best and putting your best work forward in your classes. And then last, a lot of us have heard about the request for transfer credit form. This is something that we'll get into a little bit more in the bonus material. But those transfer credit students, you all do need to do that form, and our UTK credit students, that's not a consideration for you all. So just make sure, if you don't already, make sure that you know how your courses that you're taking will count towards your degree program here at UT, what's applicable, what's not applicable, especially if you have various courses that you can choose from. Our transfer credit students, again, make sure you've completed that request for transfer credit form, you have those course pre-approvals, and make sure that you read it so that way you know you're not enrolling in a course that might not actually be approved for your program. We don't want that to happen to anybody, and we would not want your financial aid or anything to be affected by that. Again, if you have questions, we'll go over it in the bonus content at the very end. And then for our UTK credit students, just make sure that you're enrolled in that course in your My UTK account. If you're not sure if you are or you have questions, that's a question for your faculty leader, as each academic department and each program does their enrollment a little bit differently. So, yeah.
While we're on the topic of finances, there are several questions that you should be asking yourself that will be different depending on if you are taking a transfer credit, if you are in part of a transfer credit program, or if you are part of a UTK credit program. So if you are going on a trip with an affiliate provider, you need to ask yourself the following questions. Is this provider recognized by UTK? Are the classes that I'm taking eligible to transfer back and count towards my degree program? And are they registered through Programs Abroad Office and submitted on the request for transfer credit form? Again, we will talk more about that in the bonus material. If you are being led by a UT faculty, then you are taking part in a UTK credit program. So the considerations for you are, am I enrolled in my UTK? And is the course eligible to count towards my degree program? Okay, so your program fee will be posted to your account according to the UTK general term deadlines for billing and payment. If you are going to receive any sort of excess financial aid refunds, those would generally be available within the first 2 to 3 weeks after the start of the UTK term. And if you are curious what those dates are, you can go ahead and snap this QR code. The payment deadlines and financial aid scholarship disbursement calendar is here.
So before you go abroad, if the language of the host country is different from English, this is something you might consider filling out before you go. So again, it's the phone number for the local police, it's the address to the closest hospital to wherever it is that you all are staying. And then it's just some common phrases for like, help me. Especially if somehow you have lost your phone, this can be really, really useful. So you can fill this out ahead of time, just keep it in your pocket or your, backpack or your purse or whatever you're carrying. And it could come in very, very handy. So just a little tip there. Okay, the other thing is important is your passport. So your passport, as you know, is your official documentation that gets you in and out of countries. So there's a few things that we want you to remember about your passport. So one is make sure that your passport is signed and all the information is correct before uploading it into the Vols Abroad portal. The other thing that we've seen recently is it's a little bit hard to get a picture of your passport sometimes without that glare on it. But all of the information on that page has to be readable for us or it won't, the system won't accept it. So just make sure as you're taking that picture that the glare is not super ridiculous. The second thing is when you are traveling and you're not using your passport, make sure to lock your passport in your luggage that you have with you, right? You shouldn't lock it and leave it. But lock it in your luggage or another secure spot when you don't need it to be readily available. You want to check the passport validity requirements of your destination. Lots of places in the world now, it's 6 months past the end date. So whenever you're entering the country, whenever your program ends, they're requiring your passport to be valid for 6 months past that. But that does vary from country to country. So just make sure that you're checking that. This is really important, especially if you're traveling to some place that requires a visa, and we have seen a lot of these that were wrong. So this is why we put this in here, you guys. Make sure that whatever your name is listed as on your passport matches 100% exactly on your visa. You definitely don't want to get to a country or to a border and they're not going to let you in or you can't travel because the names don't match. So just make sure that you're using your passport as the official documentation to fill out all of your paperwork for your visa. Make sure when you get your visa that the names match exactly. A couple of don'ts. Don't make any marks in your passport. If you do that, they may choose to say that this invalidates the document and you can't travel. You have no passport then. Don't carry your passport around town with you if you can help it. But do take a picture or make a photocopy of it and keep that with you. So a lot of the hotels actually sometimes will make you check your passport in at the front desk, or they'll have safes and things in the wherever you're staying that you can put it in there while you're traveling around. And then the other thing is don't leave your passport behind if you're traveling to another country, especially if you're traveling to an area of the world where the countries are very accessible between each other, like the Schengen area in Europe. It's really easy to travel between countries. But if you accidentally forget your passport while you're traveling, you may not be able to get back. So don't forget to take your passport with you. Okay, now I would like to introduce Sean, who's going to talk to you about health, safety, and insurance. So, Sean, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. As Kate mentioned, my name is Sean Lanker. I'm Assistant Director for Global Security, Risk, and Resilience here in the Center for Global Engagement. So we work really closely with programs abroad in terms of supporting with risk and emergency management. So hopefully we're going to go over both risk information and some emergency management information, and hopefully you won't need either, but part of risk management is being prepared. So that's why we will go over this today. Katie Shannon could not join us. She's the other team member in the global risk team. I did want to make sure I just included her in case you ever see some messaging from her. She's part of our team as well. You can also see my email there. So I know I'm going to cover a lot of information in a short amount of time. There's no way I can cover everything specific to all of your specific programs. So if you do have questions about what I'm presenting on or things I'm not covering, please feel free to reach out. My email is there, slenker@utk.edu, and I'd be happy to address any specific questions or concerns you might have. So with our time together here today, I'm going to talk a little bit about international SOS and Chubb, what those are. We're going to talk about common incidents we see abroad. Hopefully that will help prevent that from being the case with you. We want to prevent incidents from happening. We are going to talk about global security risks, most common global security risks we see impacting most of our students. And then we will talk a little bit about our emergency action plan and some of those resources that you have available as a UT student. We're also going to talk about alcohol and drug use, and we're going to talk about physical and mental health abroad, what you can do now to prepare for your time abroad so that you can make sure you are staying healthy, both physically and mentally. And we will be talking about medications and immunizations before you travel. So we're going to start with international SOS. So who is International SOS? So International SOS is UT's 24/7 medical security and emergency assistance provider. So we partner with International SOS the world's a big place. We have people traveling everywhere. You all are going abroad on a number of different programs, but we also have faculty, staff, students traveling abroad, over 3,000 a year. So there's a lot going on. And so we partner with International SOS to help provide medical and security assistance services for all of our travelers, including all of you. So they are only available abroad, so please keep that in mind, although they are a great pre-trip resource. And I'll go over that a little bit more detail on a later slide. But you can call them before you travel to ask specific questions about your destination. That will especially be important. We talk about like health and your mental or and physical health in terms of like medications you might take and making sure things that are legal in the United States are also legal in your host country, because that will be your responsibility to do that. They can also connect you with English-speaking doctors in your host country. They can help you find a hospital or a clinic while you're abroad. They have a lot of great information about risks. And so keep in mind, I know there's a lot of links here. We'll be sending this out afterwards so that you have access to it. We'll also be linking to a guide that has this information in it as well so that you can access these links directly. One of the best things about International SOS is that, like I said earlier, they can help you arrange medical care if you're abroad. Say you're not feeling well, you just want to go see a doctor. They can help you navigate to a reputable medical resource. But also, if you use them from the get-go to open a case early, not after the fact, they can usually work directly with that hospital or clinic abroad to do direct payment with them so that you don't ever have to pay anything out of pocket. So that's a really great benefit of using International SOS, and something that we will always say, if you're reaching out to us about a medical issue, is about opening up a case with them. They also have a mobile app, which you can see here with the QR code. I would recommend downloading it before you travel abroad. It has a lot of great information, and it will also push out alerts if you are abroad and if you find yourself in an area that has a security risk going on, some type of incident. It pushes out really great alerts. I always say that I often know what's happening in some place in the world before it ever hits the US media here, because International SOS is really in tune with what's happening around the world, but also pushes out alerts about those incidents. So it's a great resource. Keep in mind, it is not health and medical insurance, but we're about to talk about what is the health and medical insurance. Before I move to that, I do want to mention, so everything I said about International SOS is true, but we are moving to a new provider on July 1st, 2025. So if you have a program that is starting in June and going through July, or if your program doesn't start until July, you will be getting more information from us about that new provider closer to your program start date. So that new assistance provider will be able to do all those things that I just told you about International SOS will also apply to them. We just don't want to make it confusing trying to share two different numbers and things like that at this time. So just keep an eye out for more information from us. We will be communicating with you before you need this information, but also we will communicate on July 1st to make sure it's hits home that you are now underneath a new provider. If something happens and you accidentally reach out to International SOS, well, they will also work with us to make sure that case is transferred to our new assistance provider. So it should be pretty seamless from your standpoint. So this Chubb is our international health insurance. So we have two components that, and they are separate companies and entities. Chubb is not changing on July 1st. So this is all going to apply to all of you, no matter when you are traveling abroad. So Chubb works on the background behind International SOS. International SOS might help arrange care or recommend care or give you travel advice, while Chubb is the actual insurance that pays for things in the background. Like I said earlier, International SOS and our new assistance provider work directly with Chubb. And so if you do utilize them from the beginning of an incident, then they might, in most cases, can do a direct payment with that hospital or clinic. So it's a really great resource. So our Chubb information, you'll be getting more information, including a whole brochure before you travel. Please do read that when it's sent out to you, because it has some great information. I'd recommend you kind of print that and take it with you, or at least keep an electronic copy available on your computer so that you can reference it if needed. It also covers everything from, medical care that you might need all the way up to medical or security evacuations. Knock on wood, we're not going to need to do a medical evacuation or a security evacuation, but if we did, we do have that covered through our Chubb, and we would be working with International SOS and or our new assistance provider to make that happen. Please keep this in mind, because we talk about this at our pre-departure orientation, and every year somebody thinks that they can use our Chubb medical insurance as travel insurance. It is not travel insurance. So if you are worried about things like a delayed or missed flight or lost luggage or stolen items like electronics, your phone, your computer, our medical insurance does not cover that. So if that's something you are interested in or worried about, you need to look into that and find a plan that works abroad in your host country that fits your needs best. So just know it's not going to work. I say that every time, and then somebody reaches out and says, well, can we please use the insurance to cover my lost iPhone? No, we cannot. So I'm telling you right now. If for some reason you weren't able to work with International SOS and you were not able to get that direct payment with the hospital, well, in those cases you pay out of pocket and save your receipts, and there's a reimbursement process. So we can help you navigate that process if needed. But again, benefit of calling International SOS or our other assistance provider early is that they can usually sort that out for you right from the start. You can scan this QR code. This takes you to a webpage on our website that has all this information, including that brochure I mentioned. It has our International SOS membership card. It has the information about how to reimburse if you did have to pay for something out of pocket. There's a reimbursement form that has all of that. When we do switch to our new assistance provider, we'll make sure that this link, if you do save it for some reason, it gets forwarded to that new information as well. So it should be, again, seamless from your standpoint. Next, I'm going to pivot a little bit away from International SOS and Chubb. Again, great resources. So make sure you read that information when we send it to you, including what it covers and what it does not cover, and reach out with any questions you might have. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about incidents and risks that we do see on our programs abroad, and steps that you can do to help keep yourself safe. So common incidents abroad. The most common incidents we do see are lost and stolen items. That's why we do talk about what our insurance can and cannot do because somebody might have a item lost or stolen and asks if our insurance can help cover the cost of that. And again, it would not. So again, if you are interested in that, please look into it and purchase an individual product that best fits your needs. So we see that a lot of pickpocketing all around the world. So that's where you need to make sure you are taking those precautions that are, kind of standard, but it's a good reminder, about say if you have your backpack, if you're sitting on the bus, putting it like in your lap or between your legs, somewhere where it's not accessible to people just reaching in and grabbing your phone, wallet, computer, anything like that. So we do see, unfortunately, quite a bit of that. We also see a lot of alcohol related incidents. Um, we're not dumb. We know that many of you might be underage here in the United States, but are traveling to countries where you are of legal drinking age and are going to choose to pursue that while you are abroad. And we cannot stop you from doing that. But we do want to remind you that you need to take common sense precautions to keep yourself both healthy and safe. Because unfortunately, a lot of like what we see with those lost and stolen items or muggings or things like that, it's usually there's a tie-in from alcohol. People are out late at night, not paying attention to their surroundings, not paying attention to what's going on around them, and these types of incidents then happening. So we'll cover alcohol more in depth, but we do see a lot of those incidents. Unfortunately, interpersonal conflicts. I get, if you never traveled abroad before, if you have, you're spending a lot of time with a group of people, and whether you love or dislike those people, that's just a lot of time to be together. And so, unfortunately, we do see some of those interpersonal conflicts flare up from time to time. We're here to help you navigate those things. Our goal is always to try to keep things at a lower incident level and not let them flare up into emergencies. So, if you have questions, concerns, you can always reach out to your program director or the Programs Abroad office, and we can help you navigate situations when they're still minor. If you do have lost or stolen items, again, use your program leader as a resource. Some countries, they're it's gonna be recommended that you file that police report, especially if you have your insurance. They'll usually require you to file a police report in order to be reimbursed. But again, that would be your personal insurance product. Lost passport, if that happens, unfortunately, it does happen from time to time. Kate gave some great tips in her slide. But we do see that happen, whether that's somebody has their belongings stolen, that, a backpack, an entire backpack that includes their passport, or somebody just happened to leave it back on a train or a taxi or something like that. It does happen. Don't worry about, you do need to reach out to us or reach out to your program director so that we can help you navigate that situation and make sure we're getting you that replacement passport on a timely fashion. Especially if you're due to travel in a near future, whether that's to a third country or back to the United States, you want to make sure you let us know in a timely fashion so that we can help you get to that U.S. embassy or consulate and get that replacement passport in a timely fashion. So please do make sure you reach out with that. And we're going to give you a lot of information today around phone numbers and including consulates, international SOS, our emergency phone number. That's on a later slide, but I would recommend you save those into your phone, whether that's today or when we send you the materials, you review it at a later date, but save it in your phone so that you're not trying to find it at a later date. It's right there available to you. Talk a little bit about more kind of global security risks. These kind of run the gamut from, again, lower level issues like street crime or protests or political unrest all the way up to bigger issues that can happen anywhere, including in the United States. Those are things like terrorism and natural disasters. Again, knock on wood that we don't want these things to happen, but the world as it is, sometimes they do. So make sure you are following your local news and media outlets. And International SOS, again, I would recommend you sign up for or download the app, including if when we switch to our new assistance provider, we'll provide information about how you can download their app. So we'll do the same thing where it can push out alerts specific to where you are. I really recommend you sign up for those because it has really great timely information involved in it. Also, the U.S. Department of State has great guidance and alerts as well that are pushed out from the local embassy and the STEP program. So that's unfortunately we cannot enroll you directly in the State Department STEP program. That's the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. But I would highly recommend that you sign up for it yourself before you travel abroad. That will give them more information about like your contact information and your itinerary and your plans. And so if something happens, those U.S. Embassy personnel know that you're in the country and they will reach out to you to see if you need assistance, to make sure you have information. Just a great resource. So please do sign up for that before you travel. You can see it there, mytravel.state.gov/ I think you can just say STEP. So, if you can't get that URL, just Google U.S. Department of State STEP program, and it'll take you right there. Again, you'll get a resource where you can click on these links in the future. I do recommend, I touched on this a little bit already when we talked about International SOS and that you can use it as a pre-travel resource, but we really recommend that you research and study your study abroad location and local culture before you travel to better understand, cultural issues, norms, and those issues that might direct you or impact you directly. So those things might be issues related to gender or sexual orientation or ethnic identity. Racial background, things like that, where you know best what you're bringing with you while you're abroad. You're going to hear me talk about that when we talk about mental health and physical health as well. But do that research, in terms of like even anticipating and starting to think about culture shock. This is where you can start looking at news the country you'll be traveling to, listening to podcasts from those locations, things like that that will help you start getting acclimated. But do that research. Again, International SOS can be a great research link right now, and you can go do that right after this meeting today. Other areas to make sure you are looking into things like appropriate dress, communication styles, and conceptions of personal space. I think this is one thing you hear about like arrogant Americans going abroad is that we tend to think that the rest of the world operates exactly as we do in the United States. And of course, that's not the case. That's not even the case within the United States, depending on where you're traveling to. So that is stuff that you can prepare for by reading about it now. So I do recommend you do that as well. Um, I also, I think students each of your programs will do an in-country orientation session that's going to be a lot more specific to your location, a lot more specific to your program. Ask questions. You're going to have questions. You're going to have questions before, right now. You're going to have questions when you get on the ground about like, why is this happening, or how do I best navigate this type of situation? Ask those questions. That's why they're there. Those program leaders, they're there to help teach you, but also to help you navigate these type of cultural situations. So please do utilize your program leaders and staff on the ground as resources and ask questions. Again, trying to keep things at a minor level and not let them grow into major incidents. And then please do keep your cell phone charged. If there's an incident abroad, we will be reaching out, whether that might be by email or by phone call. We might do a check-in, so please make sure you're monitoring that, especially if something's happening in your host destination. I do recommend keep looking into before you travel something like a power bank, just to be able to easily charge your phone on the go if that's something that you are interested in. So I would recommend that they're pretty inexpensive these days compared to what they used to be. Best practices. So again, because it's such a big group going to so many different locations, I can't give you really specific to your destination. So these are more general, but these are all great steps that you can take to help keep yourself safe, whether you're in Knoxville or traveling abroad. So making sure you're staying aware of your surroundings, maintaining a low profile and trying to fit into your local surroundings, following local guidance again. Uh, Especially in an emergency situation, you're going to get guidance from the local government or from police. Make sure you're following that guidance. Using the buddy system. Um, if you're going out at night, I always recommend using a buddy system, not traveling alone. If you are using the buddy system, make sure you do use the buddy system. Don't leave your buddy behind. Unfortunately, we've had cases in the past where somebody has had a run-in with like local thieves because they were left behind by their friends, and that's not, that doesn't leave anyone feeling good, the friends or the victim of the crime. Make sure you are avoiding unsafe areas within your host destination, city, wherever you might be traveling. There, just like Knoxville, there might be differences between certain parts of the city in the day versus night. Like in the day, you can go to these locations, no problem. At night, you might have to take increased precautions to make sure you're staying safe. So we don't expect you, a lot of you are going to locations you've never been to before. We don't expect you to be experts, but that's why we do have people that have a lot of experience or expertise in these areas that you can ask those specific questions to, like what areas should I not travel to at night? And they can give you more information. Make sure you're not refrain from wearing flashy clothes and jewelry. Consider how your attire may be perceived by the local community. Similar to that is watching your valuables and take precautions against pickpocketing. So, if you're going to a low income part of the city, you're not going to want to be walking around with your $2,000 iPhone, snapping pictures because you might make yourself more of a target. So just being careful in those types of ways. And then just listen to your gut. You're all smart people. I think that's a resource that we don't take advantage of enough is just listening to your intuition, saying like, I don't feel comfortable in this situation and honoring that. So I would recommend using that. I do want to touch, on a new resource that we've developed in the last few weeks here in the Center for Global Engagement. That's our travel and world events updates page. So there's a lot going on in the world, including in the United States. And so this is a new page that we will continue to update as new information becomes available. In particular, I want to draw attention to those of you who might be international students that might have concerns about like returning to the United States and things like that. There's a couple of resources here. Again, they will be clickable when we share this information with you. But International Students and Scholar Services has some great resources as well, immigration updates and information. Make sure what you need to make sure you're doing before you travel inside or outside of the United States. So please do take a look at those. If you go to that travel and world events updates page at the first link, that will take you to the ISSS links as well, International Student and Scholar Services. I'm happy to help Nat. I know this is there's a lot going on, so you can always reach out to me again at SLENKER@UTK.edu, and I can help you navigate the situation, depending on what types of questions you might have. So please do feel free to reach out. We talked about like common incidents we see. We talked about some kind of common sense precautions you can take. That's kind of the risk management side. Now we're going to pivot a little bit towards emergencies. Again, we don't want emergencies to happen, but life happens, and so we want to make sure you have your resources and some indication of what you should be doing in these situations, so that you can keep yourself healthy and safe again. So we kind of break this down into two different categories, and we have kind of emergencies versus like non-emergencies, but still things, we want to be aware of, and we want to make sure that you are getting support and resources regarding. So for emergencies, we have this kind of helpful flow chart to help you think through it. I'll walk through it quickly, but again, this will be sent to you so that you don't have to worry about memorizing it right now. You'll have this as well. It's also on the Programs Abroad website. But if you really, you find yourself in a situation where you need, similar to Knoxville, you need an ambulance, or you need the police, or you need the fire department, call that 911 equivalent. After I'm done talking, or unless somebody wants to put it in there now, I can share a 911 equivalent resource from the Department of State that is really helpful. That helps, quite a few countries use 911. A lot of others use different codes, but you should know that before you travel. And that's what you should, if you need the fire department, call 911. You're not going to call our emergency phone. You're not going to call International SOS, because that's just going to delay those emergency services from getting to you. So do that. Each of your program leaders also will share in your in-country orientation session information about what to do in an emergency specific to that program or your location. We work with a lot of providers directly to provide on the ground 24/7 health and safety support. So they will give you information about, hey, you can reach out to this contact or this contact, this contact. So that those are the people on the ground, and they can be really great resources that you want to reach out to. So that's your on-site leaders. And then International SOS, or our new assistance provider, once they are launched. Again, they can be really great resources in terms of helping you navigate, hey, I need help finding a hospital or clinic. This is happening. I'm dealing with this medical issue. They have a whole medical team, and they can help you navigate those situations. They're just, again, they have some resources on the ground, but they're not going to be right there next to you. So that's why they're always a great resource, but they're ranked a little bit lower in terms of a flow chart. And then we also have a 24/7 emergency line that you can call that would reach a member of the Center for Global Engagement team. So we monitor for that. So if you're not getting the help you need and you need to reach out, you can always reach out to that resource as well. Non-emergencies, again, these are kind of things like lost or stolen items, delayed or missed flights, transportation disruption, something like a minor illness, like a common cold or allergies. Again, we want to make sure you are getting the care you need so that you can focus on, your experience and your learning abroad. It just might not be you have to call me at 3 in the morning at the emergency phone about it, right? Like you should let your on-site leaders contact the Programs Abroad office, and we can help make sure you get the resources and support you need. But just think about that. Sometimes I have in the past gotten some calls at 3 in the morning that are not true emergencies, and it can be a challenge. So like I said, we're going to return back to alcohol consumption. We are harping on this because, again, it is something that we see in a lot as a root cause of a lot of our incidents abroad, is that people, especially, like I said, if you might not be of age here and not partaking in drinking culture, but then you find yourself in a location like most of the world, probably around 18 or above, where people are drinking more. You might not have experience drinking. You don't know how to navigate these things. And so you find yourself in trouble, but you're in trouble in a location where you don't have the support of the university, the entire university resources. You don't know the city well. So it's just not a situation you want to put yourself into. So of course, if you're going to be consuming alcohol, make sure you're drinking in moderation and do not consume alcohol in excess. Um, can't stress that enough. Just it's such a root cause of the incidents we see abroad. So please be thoughtful about it, please. Um, I think one of the other things I do want to mention about the drinking culture in other locations is that, you know, often again this is where that stereotype of like the kind of the arrogant or boorish American comes in, because people in a lot of other parts of the world do not drink like Americans, especially college age Americans. And I'm not saying that all of you drink, but a lot do. It just kind of makes you stand out again, put yourself at risk, and also can lead to confrontations because they're like, why are you coming to my city? You are visiting my city and you are making a fool. You are, you know, knocking things over. You're puking in the streets. Like nobody wants that happening in their home, right? And so the city is their home. And so just be very thoughtful about that. And then again, I'm stressing this because it's so important. It's just like use that buddy system. If you're going out at night, make sure you are going out in pairs or more. And if you are doing that, please do not leave people behind. Make sure you're looking out for each other. Just having that somebody else there, you might find yourself navigating a unfamiliar situation. Well, you two heads are better than one. You guys can figure things out better together and help avoid some of the issues or incidents that we see every summer. I know some of you might be tempted to use drugs, illegal drugs while you're abroad. Just know, we cannot. One, as Brad and Kate were talking earlier about things that happen abroad in terms of incidents or um, disciplinary issues, they will come back to UT with you, right? It's not going to just happen abroad and stay abroad. It's going to come back if you're impacting the program, you're impacting yourself, you're using illegal drugs, it's going to come back to you. But also, we cannot help you. Say you were arrested because you were buying drugs or using drugs, illegal drugs. We cannot help you. The U.S. Embassy cannot help you in those situations. There's very little that we can do in those situations besides say, here's a list of lawyers, and try to support you in that way. So there's just very little we can do in these types of incidents. And so just what I'm saying, avoid it in the first place. Don't put yourself in that situation where you might need a lawyer, right? And in some locations you might be traveling to have very low tolerance for drug use or drug like sales, things like that. And so some of the things that we see in the United States, even those can be high, but in some locations it can be 20 years in jail. They might accuse you of drug trafficking if you have enough drugs. And again, there's not much that we can do in those situations. So just avoid drugs. You are ultimately responsible for your own behavior and any misconduct and or legal implications that stem from your consumption of drugs and alcohol. So please keep that in mind. So I want to talk a little bit about physical and mental health. And this is something we want to make sure we talk about it now because again, like researching your host destination, there are things that you can be taking now to make sure you are going to have a successful time abroad from a health standpoint. So like I said earlier about like what you're taking with you abroad, you know what you are bringing with you in terms of like physical health needs, pre-existing conditions you're dealing with, mental health conditions that you're dealing with. So take stock of that tonight, have dinner, and then come back and think about, okay, what am I bringing with me on my program while I'm abroad? Okay, so now that you've done that, what do I need to do to make sure I am going to be totally successful in dealing with that mental health issue, pre-existing condition, whatever else while I'm abroad? You might say, I don't know. And that's where you can reach out to us now and say, hey, I want help trying to think through a plan of what I might do in a situation if I have to deal with X, Y, or Z, right? So that's the benefit of doing that before you travel, before you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, I haven't thought about this and now I don't know what to do, right? We can help you navigate that too, but it's better if we can come up with a plan and help you come up with a plan now. So take stock of that stuff yourself right now. Um, we do recommend, if you're dealing with a pre-existing medical condition, you do want to talk to your doctor before you travel and make sure you have that plan. We are not medical professionals, nor do we want to give medical advice. And so in some of those situations, we'd be like, well, we recommend go talk to student health on campus or go talk to your doctor, and they can help you think through how we might now navigate that situation. If you are using, for mental health, if you're using a therapist or counselor, you might be taking advantage of counseling and psychological services on campus. This is a great time right now. You're still, many of you, a month or more out from your program to say, hey, I want to talk, how am I going to deal with my panic or my obsessive compulsive disorder or other issues, depression, whatever it might be. There's an old saying, like, wherever you go, there you are. You take yourself with you. And I think sometimes students, especially those who have not traveled abroad before, you think that everything will be different when you enter a new country. And that's not the case. You're going to be taking some of these things with you. Or you might have you've never dealt with anxiety before, but now you're feeling really anxious because you're in a new environment with new people. Well, this is exactly why, there are resources on campus or others that you might already be addressing that can help you think through a plan of how am I going to deal with those situations. So please do take advantage. Think about that now. There is, if you, in your Vols Abroad portal, there was a pre-existing or a medical self-disclosure form. Please make sure you've completed that as well. We can only we can only do something if we have information about that thing. So please make sure you're providing that information there as well. Again, reach out to us if you have specific concerns that you want to discuss. Um, And then if you find yourself, trying to navigate, again, I talked about International SOS in terms of they can help us find medical clinics or hospitals for physical issues. But we also work with International SOS and our future assistance provider to on mental health. So basically, just know that you're not alone. We can help you navigate those situations. We have resources. We can either connect you to, in-country resources on the ground, but also we can connect you to telecounseling resources through International SOS and our new assistance provider. So that is, you know, you don't have to struggle alone. Always know that you have resources. So yeah, our International SOS, we have 5 free telehealth counseling sessions for free. Our new assistance provider, we actually have 6. So both of them will have resources that we can connect you with no matter where you're traveling to. So that's a great resource. So again, reach out if needed. Again, when you do that, taking stock of yourself, even if you haven't really dealt with mental health issues in the past, well, you still know that there are certain things that might be stressors in your life or things that you need to work on. So that again, when you're traveling abroad, sometimes those things can be exacerbated. So make sure you are thinking about that now. What is those stressors? How can I minimize those stressors? How do I deal with stress in my life on campus? What are things that I can do when I'm feeling that stress? We give you some strategies here, whether, breath exercises, exercise, mindfulness, meditation, setting boundaries, taking breaks, keeping a journal. You know what works best for you, right? So um, think about that now and think about a plan of how you will tap into that when you're abroad. Medications and immunizations. So again, I mentioned this briefly at the beginning when we were talking about International SOS. So we are not uh, trade experts or lawyers, just like we're not doctors. And so we do partner with organizations like International SOS and our future assistance provider that will be able to give you really concrete information about legality of medications. For example, I use the example all the time of like certain ADHD medications, like Adderall, for example, is not legal in a number of different countries, but Japan, for example, is not legal there, right? So that's where if you're taking immunization or medications and you want to check into the legality in the host country or countries you are traveling to, well, reach out to International SOS. You can use them as a pre-travel resource. You don't have to just use them for, I need assistance, I'm abroad, I need help finding a hospital. You can call them and say, I have questions or concerns about this medical condition or about this medication that I'm taking. Can you help me navigate that? And they'll say, yes, we can. And it's going to cost you nothing to do that. So please do reach out if needed. Make sure you're taking those precautions. If you are bringing medications into a host country, it's always recommended that you get a detailed description of your medication, like what it is and what its purpose is on signed letterhead, and make sure you pack that in your carry-on luggage, not checked luggage. Unfortunately, we had that in the past as well, where students that needed medication put it into their checked luggage. That checked luggage is lost. Well, what are you going to do now? We can help you figure out where we can get replacement medications, but you don't want to put yourself in that situation in the first place. So make sure you're bringing that medication with documentation in your carry-on luggage. Again, this is where it can get like tricky. So reach out to International SOS if you need more information. But like certain medications might not be illegal, but there might be limits on how much you can bring in. So again, those are questions you can ask. If you do need help finding more medication or some medication equivalent, again, if that's not available in that country, reach out to International SOS and we can help you figure that out. I do recommend, similar to your passport, similar to the insurance information that we're sharing earlier, is making a copy of your prescription and save it online. Email it to yourself, save it in Google Drive, something like that, where you can easily access it so that you could share it with a doctor abroad or something if you did need to obtain replacement medication. Um, and for prescription packing, make sure you're packing it in the original bottles and packaging, not like putting it into some other container or putting it in like a sandwich baggie or something like that. Keep it in the original container with the prescription information in case the border control wants to see that. Um, and then if some of you might be going to locations where you uh, either have recommended or required vaccinations, because again, there's so many of you going to so many locations. I'm just going to plug here the State Department's website where that can tell you more information about what is required versus recommended, and you can make a decision on those things. And there's a really great guide. I think that should link to it and give you more information. So this is where I'm going to plug what we talked about. So there's a lot of links, a lot of information. There's a guide that you can access. It's on the Programs Abroad website as well. And I think it'll be included in the resources when we share this recording, where that everything I talked about, but even more than we can cover here today, it will be in this guide so you can find it later. So please do make sure you take a look at that.
Thanks, Sean, for a really comprehensive presentation on health and safety. But Sean, we have such a serious question. Well, like, what if it's cultural differences? Like, how is safety involved with cultural differences? Well, let's go, Kyra. We're going to talk about it right here. So Kyra is going to explain our section. So this section is going to be highly engaging. It'll require a lot of participation from your end. So Kyra will describe kind of the participation guide, how this will work.
So we'll go over 3 cases. In each cases, you'll see these 3 symbols. The first one, the question mark, it just means we're asking you a rhetorical question. This is not supposed to be like, you don't have to answer in the chat or anything. You'll just think about the answer. And then the poll image means that we are asking you to answer the question on Zoom. And so a poll will be launched and you should be able to click on it. And then lastly, the light bulb symbol means that we're debriefing and we'll go over what we just talked about.
Yeah, so we'll be presenting 3 different cases, integrating aspects of health and safety with cultural difference.
Case number 1, one drink too many.
So during a break from classes, Sophia, an American sophomore studied abroad in Costa Rica, sits down for lunch with a group that included a few American students she met in class. Her classmates invited 2 locals from Costa Rica to show them around for good places to eat. At the restaurant, the locals buy a bottle of guaro, a local liquor common to enjoy with meals. They say it's a Costa Rican tradition. This is new to Sophia, drinking abroad, but she accepts the glass. The group has a great time, but then the locals order another bottle. Sophia glances around, unsure if she should accept another glass. They tell her, don't worry, it's perfectly normal here. So what I'm going to do, first, self-reflect. Who is involved in this case and where are they from? I'm going to open a poll right now, and I'd like you to answer, if you were Sophia, how comfortable would you be in this situation? Would you be uncomfortable 1 or comfortable 5? And do you believe this case is a cultural difference or safety concern? So we'll give you about maybe 15 seconds to put in your thoughts. All right, so what is the consensus here? So it looks like for the most part, people are uncomfortable. And then a lot of you think this is both a safety concern and cultural difference. So let's debrief this. Awesome. So we're going to talk about the cultural aspects of this case as well as the safety concern aspects of this case, because it is not black and white. It is indeed both a safety concern and a cultural difference. So some of you are going to Latin America. A lot of you are going to Spain and Italy, all of that. So basically in the US, the drinking age is 21. Outside of this country, the drinking age can be as young as 16 years old. So a lot of the times, alcohol and other cultures, it's definitely woven more into the social bonding aspects of cultures, like in Latin America, Spain, Italy, all of that. So Alcohol is more of a tool to increase the social experience, and it's not a tool to get wasted. It's not a tool to basically be irresponsible. So if you do that, that could be perceived very negatively in the local community space.
Okay.
In addition, alcohol is consumed with large meals for lunch. If you're going to Spain, they have a thing called tapas during dinner. So it's like a small appetizer-sized dinner, and people usually would get drinks with that. So it's not uncommon to have drinks with meals, especially lunch, because that could be the largest meal of the day. So just be mindful of that.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the safety concerns that revolve around this case. So the first is like your tolerance to alcohol. As Sean mentioned, again, abroad, like the drinking age may be different. However, here our drinking age is 21. While you are allowed to drink, does not necessarily mean that you've built a tolerance to it or know how to affect your body. And that's generally when it can become a safety concern, because if you get intoxicated, then how you react and handle situations might not be the same. And so just thinking about your tolerance abroad and like how much drinks you're having and how that impacts your safety is good to keep in mind. In addition to that, thinking about the risk to academic performance if you were drinking and then you had to go back to class, like in this case, and drinking with strangers. Can you trust those that you're around, making sure that your buddies don't leave you and that you can make sure that they'll help you get home safely? And then lastly, thinking about your new surroundings. Are you aware of them? Do you know how to travel back? So these are things you should think about before mixing in alcohol and like making your judgment less clear.
I trust you. If I went abroad with you, I trust you.
I'd leave you behind.
Okay. Okay, so let's tie it together. Safety measures here in this case. So a lot of you outside of this case, a lot of you are going abroad because you tell us you want to get out of your comfort zone. So I like to understand this as, well, if you leave your comfort zone, you're either going into your learning zone or you're going into your panic zone. We want you to be in your learning zone. So that means find a balance between cultural immersion, but don't necessarily sacrifice your own personal boundaries here. It's okay to say no if you are uncomfortable, because discomfort is good. Being unsafe is not good. So what this means is you don't need to feel pressured to have an experience. Like, you don't need to compare your experience to what you see peers doing on your program, what you see on social media. You want this program to be tailored to your own goals for this program, and especially tailored to your own personality. So definitely respect your own boundaries and try to channel your learning zone of what that would look like. And then Kyra will address the last 2 points.
Okay. So other ways to keep yourself safe is using apps. You can share your locations with those on the ground. Some common apps that allow you to do this is Find My, Life 360, and WhatsApp. All of these allow you to share your locations in real time with people. And in addition to that, communicating with your on the ground staff members. They can definitely help you navigate different situations and give you advice if you're ever concerned about anything.
Great. Thank you. All right. So our next case is called
Too Hot to Handle. Josh studies abroad in Florence and lives with a host family. His host family mom is very kind and attentive and makes sure that he is comfortable. As the spring semester progresses, the temperature in the country starts to fluctuate. At one point, the temperature reaches 80 degrees. Josh felt very uncomfortable in his host family's apartment, as it felt as hot inside as it was outside.
So I'm going to release the poll. The first question is pertaining to this section only. And then the part about cultural difference versus safety concern is for at the end of the case of how that ended. So my question to you, who's involved? Where are they from? And then the poll, I'll launch it right now. What are you going to do in this situation? If it's 80 degrees in your apartment, what do you do? Are you going to turn on the air conditioning? Are you going to open up a window, use a fan, grab an ice pack? You're going to change clothes, or you're going to take multiple showers?
The host mom sees Josh's discomfort and opens up the window to allow ventilation at night. Josh still feels uncomfortable.
Right. And now the question, do you think this is a cultural difference, safety concern, or maybe both? Okay. So it's slowing down. Let's share the results. I'm actually really surprised that kind of the leading answer is use a fan. And then, yeah, turn on the air conditioning. And yeah, it looks like for the most part, people think this is a cultural difference more than a safety concern and more than really both. But let's break this up. So Josh Josh noticed that there was a temperature controller on his host family's wall. It's like an air conditioning system. He didn't think anything of it, and he lowered the temperature to 68 degrees. The following day, his host mom was very upset. So there may be some cultural difference involved here with this reaction. So we're going to debrief it. So I think as Americans, we don't realize how reliant we are on air conditioning systems and heater systems until we go abroad. Many Europeans, also in Latin America, they prefer natural forms of ventilation, so it's no surprise that the host mom opened up the window. Also, I lived in Spain during the summer. A lot of you are going abroad during the summer. It will get very hot. So either you open up the window, or if it's way too hot, you're going to close all the windows and you're going to try to block as much direct sunlight coming into your building. But yeah, so this is pretty common in Europe. Also, there are more Europeans tend to be more environmentally conscious and mindful about their energy usage with air conditioning and heater systems. That also correlates with the fact that using these systems cost a lot of money. So they tend to only use it when they really need it. So if that means they don't use air conditioning when it's 80 degrees in your apartment, well, that's going to be something you're going to have to adapt to. In addition, there might be different perceptions about the usage of air conditioning systems. So sometimes in some cultures, they believe if you rely on this too much, your body is exposed to like pathogens, I guess, and you could be subject to colds or other health risks. And then Kyra's going to talk about safety concerns.
So we have two safety concerns for this one. And the first is just that your body might not be used to these warmer temperatures and not having AC. And then this could cause like you being uncomfortable and reducing your sleep and productivity. And we want to mention like one key factor, that just the difference between being uncomfortable and it being like a health risk. So if you're uncomfortable with warmer weather, that just means that it doesn't feel good, you're sweaty, and you can manage this by either using a fan or taking a shower. Whilst if it's a health concern, that's when you might be feeling dehydrated, having headaches, fatigue, or dizziness. In that case, that's when you would want to reach out to, if you have a host mom or if you have on-site staff, that's who you want to reach out to. And then if it escalates to you needing like emergency assistance, and like calling the PAO emergency phone, but first, utilizing international SOS.
I think today our office has realized that you'll be practicing adaptability. That's one of the main skills you will be getting when you go abroad. So adapt to all these cultural differences. Lead into what the locals are doing. Locals have so much knowledge that you could also benefit from. If you really need to, feel free to buy yourself a fan. Looks like a lot of you are pro fan more than pro AC. Feel free to maybe change clothes indoors, wear something else indoors, but also be mindful if you are living with a host family, if you are living with other locals or even international roommates, being mindful about how clothing is perceived, because there are different perceptions based on what you're wearing in other cultures. You may want to take frequent showers, but as we just talked about being environmentally conscious in other cultures, being mindful how long those showers are. Don't take too long of a shower, and don't necessarily use up all the hot water. Right. So I think we're ready for the last case. Okay, so our last case is
blending in or standing out. Courtney arrives to start their study abroad in Morocco. Courtney and a few classmates, Max and Annie, go out together to explore their surroundings and start taking in their new life for the next 5 months. They pull up their locations on their smartphones to find their way around town, eyes constantly glued to their screens.
Even though it's January, it's 68 degrees. So Courtney puts on athletic leggings and a long t-shirt. Annie wears a jacket over her crop top in case it gets cooler. And Max wears his basketball shorts, hoodie, and his new Rolex watch he was gifted over the holidays.
The three walk along the crowded streets filled with local markets, vendors. Courtney starts to feel uneasy, and they feel a lot of lingering stares and finger pointing.
All right, so I'm about to launch the poll. There are multiple people involved in this. Who's involved and where are they from? And then how comfortable would you be if you were Courtney, Annie, or Max? And is this a cultural difference or safety concern? Looks like for the most part, most of you would be uncomfortable. A lot of you also think this is not a black and white issue. It's both a cultural difference and safety concern. All right, so let's debrief it. Okay, so multiple things were discussed in this case. one part was staring, and that probably is contributing to why most of you feel uncomfortable in this situation. Staring has different perceptions. So here in the US, we might associate staring with like discomfort, judgment, just basically impoliteness. But abroad, it might be perceived differently. From the place of being a foreigner in someone else's country, staring might be due to curiosity. So maybe the locals in your host community, they haven't seen Americans before. Maybe you're speaking English and they're curious about that. Maybe it is what you're wearing, or maybe it is the fact that they've never seen someone that looked like you before. So keep in mind, staring might not necessarily have bad intentions. The second point is about, yes, the clothing and temperature. So in many countries, or here in the US, whatever you wear is usually dictated by the weather of the day. So if it's 68 degrees in January on Tuesday when you're on campus, well, I've seen students wear shorts on this day. However, if I'm in Spain and it's 68 degrees in January, it is winter. It's the season. So wearing shorts might not be common, and that might result in staring, or it could be considered inappropriate. And then just so you know, in many Middle Eastern countries, North African, South Asian countries, some European countries, and of course, depending on the context, modesty is reflected in your choice of clothing. So make sure to be mindful of what you are wearing.
Okay, and then I'm going to go over the safety concerns. So, safety concern is that those who are staring at you might be like having a negative perception of your choice of clothing, resulting in like negative attention from locals and causing you to stick out. Again, if you're wearing flashy accessories or if you're looking at your phone, this can cause you to be targeted for theft. And staring at your cell phone can affect like your situational awareness, which allows you again to be vulnerable to theft and like falling into like unsafe situations. So just advising to think about what you're wearing, not necessarily just like the clothing type, but the brands too, and what that may convey to others who already have perceptions of Americans abroad. And just thinking about, if you don't know your location, maybe before you go out getting the street names in your head, so you're not always like staring at the phone, you have a general direction of where you're going.
Mm-hmm. And I just kind of want to talk about safety measures here. So I know, at least in the US, there's a lot of discourse about what clothing means, who wears it, why they're wearing it, all of that. Just want to make sure we understand that where we are in the conversation of our clothing choices may not be the same in other cultures. So it's really important to try your best to blend in. But like I said earlier, really kind of tap into your learning zone. If you are uncomfortable, you don't necessarily have to blend in, but if you do decide to not blend in with your clothes, that may result in staring. And sometimes when you do stick out, it can also target you for petty theft, something like that, sticking out as a tourist. So just keep in mind that thing. Be aware of your surroundings. So in this case, someone was on their phone. I know I depended on my phone all the time when I navigate. I still depend on my phone here in Knoxville. So keep in mind when you're looking at your phone, someone might be watching you. So always have your possessions close to you at all times.
And then lastly, to prepare yourself, you can always research common tactics for the areas you're going to. Maybe what are the tourist traps and what ways do people try to like scam you there? And then you can also just be smart about what you're carrying with you. Don't take your passport with you everywhere you go. Like we said, keep it locked up, and be smart about, and then also just think about like how many cards you have on you. Just think about like how you're like making yourself like targetable to theft.
Yeah.
Okay, so just wrapping it up, our section focused on like letting you all stay curious and open-minded about what you might observe abroad and like being ready to learn once you're abroad. In addition, we talked about the differences of feeling unsafe and versus just being uncomfortable. And then the last two, we talked about building support networks with your peers, on-site team, and locals. Those people can support you when you're navigating your new country and help you get acclimated. And listen to your gut. Trust whatever you feel abroad. That'll help you navigate your situations.
Right. Thanks, Kara. Before we transition to Peyton to talk about reentry, in our bonus material, I will be facilitating another activity focusing on one concept of intercultural competency development. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, take it away, Peyton.
Hi, everyone. As we Oh no, my Zoom only went out. Okay. Hi, everyone. As we start to wrap up the main section of our pre-departure orientation, I kind of want to talk a little bit about reentry and what that looks like. Perfect. So, what is reentry? It's an emotional and psychological stage of readjustment. So, just as you might experience culture shock when you arrive in your host country, many students go through what some might call reverse culture shock when they return. So, things at home may feel a little different or even a little off. You might miss your home host country more than you expect. You might feel like others don't understand what you went through in that life-changing experience. So trust me, like the stereotype is true. Once you go abroad, that's all you'll want to talk about. That's all you'll be thinking about. And that's totally normal. So while you've gone off to learn more about yourself and the world around you, life at home continued. The people here at your home, your parents, your friends, their all lives continued. So just some, not necessarily repairing of relationships, but rebuilding relationships and cultural catching up to the American culture and what you're used to here may be necessary. So just kind of the key to give yourself some time and space to process your experience, doing that through journaling, connecting with other attorneys, and really getting involved that way. And how we do so, we've got two kind of experiences with the Programs Abroad Office and the CGE. So our SOAR is our student organization for abroad returnees, where you can work towards a graduation cord by volunteering with us. So it's an opportunities for study abroad alumni to connect with other alumni, learn about others' experiences, and share their, what they went through when they studied abroad. So you get to help us support our Vols Abroad Fair, some pre-departure orientations, plan some guest speakers, peer support, and social functions. So it's a great way to get involved. We've got the Vol Link QR code there, so you can kind of read up a little bit more. But next slide. We're also hiring in our Programs Abroad office. So come be a Programs Abroad Global Ambassador. So that is through the Center for Global Engagement, and you aid the students through their Programs Abroad process through advising, administrative support, and outreach efforts. So the first point of contact for almost 2,000 students that study abroad annually. So most of you that are in this Zoom probably spoke with a global ambassador when you were thinking about studying abroad. So come be one. It's a really great way to reflect on your study abroad experience and encourage fellow Vols to have a global experience as well. Like I said before, once you study abroad, that's all you'll want to do, and your friends love you, but they might get tired of hearing you talk about it. So come be with a group of other students that love to talk about their experience, and you get to share that experience with some fellow Vols. So please read up more on the position through that QR code. It'll take you to the handshake, where you'll see the job description as well as the materials, the application. And then, so one last thing is that study abroad has many tremendous benefits, especially when it comes to professional development. So we're lucky enough to have a video from the Center for Career Development, which dives a little bit deeper into how you can implement your study abroad experience into your career development.
Hi, Vols. My name is Stephanie Kitt, and I'm the director at the Center for Career Development and Academic Exploration. Congratulations on your decision to study abroad. I know it's going to be an amazing experience. I'm here today to tell you briefly about how you can frame this experience in a career lens and think about the skills and experiences and competencies you're going to gain while abroad, so that you can really sell the value of this experience to future employers or graduate programs. I want you to think holistically about this experience, everything from getting passports and visas to arranging transportation there, learning a new culture, a new housing situation, the coursework that you'll complete, as well as any additional travel that you'll do. You're going to want to frame those experiences through these 8 NACE career-ready competencies. I'm going to briefly introduce them to you. Critical thinking looks at solving problems and thinking through things critically. We have communication, representing both oral and written communication. Teamwork, learning how to work together with others to solve a task or problem. technology, using technology effectively to complete your work and learning about emerging technologies. We have career and self-development, so understanding your career goals and what it takes to reach them, as well as knowing about your strengths and interests and values. Leadership, understanding when it's appropriate to step up into a leadership role. Professionalism, your work output, your punctuality, your work integrity. And finally, equity inclusion, learning to work respectfully with people from different cultures. And I bet that you are going to work on all 8 of those throughout your experience. And before you leave, I encourage you to set some goals about what do you want to learn and accomplish. Are there some of those competencies that you particularly want to hone while you're abroad? Collect stories. When you have challenges, maybe you have challenges navigating the transportation system or in learning how to communicate in the grocery store. Think about how you can turn that into an interview story in the future, because we really want you to learn how to articulate this experience both on your resume and in interviews, as well as letting it help build your professional brand on resources like LinkedIn. When you return to Tennessee, you will have a re-entry workshop, and we will go into much more depth with this career lens and help you learn how to write up the experience on your resume. You can always have career coaching appointments. That's even something you can do virtually while abroad. And we're going to help you learn how to talk about the experience in interviews, help you really refine your LinkedIn profile and get you a great looking headshot. If you want to do any of this work while you're away, you can get started at career.utk.edu. But for now, I hope your trip is amazing, and we look forward to working with you when you return. Go Vols.
Okay, you guys, we are done in like an hour and a half. I think we beat our record even for last time. So just a few things before you all start signing off. So next steps, here's kind of a checklist that you can use, and it summarizes a lot of the information that you've heard here today. So one is you need to complete your pre-departure assessment in the Vols Abroad portal. That's how you complete the materials requirement for this. So go into your portal, complete that requirement. That'll be done. The second thing is Sean talked a lot about the ISOS app and things like that. You can download that. The STEP enrollment, that's the one through I think it's the Department of State that we cannot enroll you in. So you have to enroll in that yourself. There's information there. The PAO contact card, there's a QR code right at the bottom of the screen here. Make sure you save that. Make sure all your materials in your Vols Abroad portal are submitted to make sure that we didn't miss anything. I know Jess sent a reminder out in the chat about, hey, complete your health and wellness form in there. And then just a couple things, if you're a UTK credit student, that's usually students who are going abroad on faculty directed programs. As Tessa mentioned, make sure you're enrolled in your right course. If you're not sure, look in your My UTK. If you're not seeing it, talk to your faculty, because that is different from college to college and sometimes even department by department. And if you're a transfer credit student, make sure that you've submitted your request for transfer credit form, if at all within your power. That will save you a lot of heartache on the back end of things. Okay, and then again, just another reminder, go to your Vols Abroad portal and complete the pre-departure orientation assessment. And again, that's how that requirement will be satisfied in there. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you are interested in the more in-depth or like bonus materials, stick around a little bit longer, and we'll get started with those pretty much immediately. So thank you so much for joining today, everybody.